Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Turton. I currently work for Lincolnshire Care Association as Head of Workforce, and also I'm a Director of the Care Association. And with me today is Damon.
Hi, yeah, I'm Damon, Damon Habin. I work for LinCA as well, and I'm on the digital team, supporting with all things fun and interesting.
Um, uh, the reason why me and Damon's got together on this is twofold. One is that we've got a great interest in social care. Two, we've got also a great interest in causing havoc, I think, as well.
Yep.
But also the whole idea of this is that over the last 12 months, I've been doing a series of basic questions which appear on my LinkedIn account, which I ask for people to share, and those are around basic 2 questions and 1 top tip. They're nearly always connected to something which has happened in social care or happened to me in social care, but also it's connected to workforce, it's connected to innovation and digital. It's also connected to agendas which is happening in health and social care in general across the country. And when I first started this, I think Damon was the only one who used to answer my call. But what I've found is over the sort of the last 12 months is that's gone up from 2 or 3 people sharing it. And I think the last bit when I stopped it after 12 months was that it was up to over nearly 1,000. So I thought, well, this is the power of media, and how do we actually utilize the next episode, shall we say, and that's taking rather than a written but more into a podcast process. So this is our first soiree into it. So today is really going to be around 2 questions and 1 top tip. So before we start, a little bit of fun. And I said to Damon before we start, we will do a bit of fun. And the bit of fun is not because my football team are lost yet again, which that will be a constant issue constantly on these podcasts, is not just our sportive prowess and the teams we support, but more in cases it's just light-hearted as well. But I asked one of the team at LinCA to come up with potential titles for our podcast, Damon.
Right.
So I've got 4 for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you the voting right.
Oh, God.
So you've got 2, I've got 1 vote. First one.
Yep.
2 blokes, no filter on care.
Okay.
Okay. Next one. Men behaving carefully.
Oh.
Third one. Slightly past it, but still caring.
Yep.
And the 4th. 2 geezers, 1 care plan.
I think they're all very noble.
Thank you.
Yeah, I quite like the
So
fourth one.
what's your thinking?
Yeah, I like the fourth one, I think.
I do as well.
Yeah.
So are we agreeing? We're
Yeah,
going to call this podcast 2 geezers, 1 care plan.
Sounds good to me.
So all we've got to do now is do our media, do our commercial, get us hashtags, and the world is our oyster, Damon. What do you reckon?
It's a start, isn't it? We're on the journey now, Mark.
Right. So what we want to do is we'll get this podcast really started, and we said we're going to just do 2 questions. So Damon, I'll ask you, and you can reverse their things. So why social care for you?
I think for me, it's been a journey, and prior to coming into social care, number of roles, pretty good roles, good positions, and I got to a point in life where I thought, well, actually, I want to do something more meaningful, and I think more than anything, I was applying for charities and bits like that, and then a job came up for a domiciliary care provider. Went for the interview, never looked back, and that was 17 years ago.
So looking at that, what was your background before that?
Started off in retail and progressed. and then stumbled into estate agency. And became a quite a successful estate agent, um, and enjoyed it. Had some good times. Um, yeah, but it's a very it's a wonderful industry, but in some ways, not shallow, but every month, you're always chasing to do better. Um, and it's good, and it was wonderful, but it just wasn't everything that I was looking for. So I wanted something more meatier, something, um yeah, something with more meaning, I suppose.
So, when you started at this home care provider,
Yeah.
what's the first thing what stood out? Can you remember?
um I think it was meeting the support workers, um and just how amazing they were. Because you always seem to be asking them if they could do one extra. Could they pick up a call? Could they just go and do this? Is there any chance? I know it's their day off, but could they just pick up, a few extra calls up? And they were very amenable and willing and wanting. And then I actually went out and did some hands-on care as well. And I think that's one of the best jobs I've ever done. Um, to be there supporting people, and working as a bigger team, was amazing.
So, on your journey, and not
Yeah,
so much your current journey, but your
yeah.
previous journey, who, not the names, but what type of people influence your decision making to maintain yourself in the roles you actually were employed in?
I think it comes down to good managers. I think we can name them a wonderful lady called Denise, real good role model, um, supported, helped me on my journey, but then going out and meeting the support staff, and um, varied, a wonderful range of people, but just seeing them do what they do, and why they do it, and it's sort of very humbling. And I think that just helps to mold you into a better person, seeing it from both sides, and also with the service users. What the people that are being supported, what they wanted out of their care journey. Um, and to get everything aligned is not an easy thing. And I think it took a great office team, a great team of support workers, um, and some amazing sort of service users, people that we supported, and their families. I think it all just aligned, and when it really aligned, it was just amazing. That's amazing.
And I'm thinking now in your current role.
Mm.
So, what is it about that role which gets you out of the bed in the morning, shall we say? And sort of,
Yeah,
because I think out of all my friends who I work with, you're
yeah,
probably the most active on social media,
yeah,
in the sense, apart from our astute leader.
yeah,
But the fact is that you see the art of communication and using that arm to actually not so much influence. I think it's a powerful word, influence, isn't it?
yeah.
But I think it's passing the message on. And I always think our role here in LinCA is just that. We are just the postman, the postwoman is actually posting the information, aren't we?
Well, I think I did a training for a long period of time, and I was actually talking to somebody this morning. Uh, when Sort of as a trainer, I know you're a great trainer as well, Mark. But when you've got a room full of people, and they start buying in, you could be telling them anything, and as long as it sounded reasonable, and they believe it, which is a scary thing, because if you're not being completely honest with people, or if you get it wrong yourself, and I've done that in the past as a trainer. I've believed something that I've been told, shared that within a few training groups, and I had to go back and sort of say, yep, no, that was wrong, I was wrong information. um, but I think for me, it's in this current role, which I just love it. It's having that information, it's reaching out to people, and it's sharing it, and just knowing, that if one provider picks something up and runs with it, and that helps them to do something or prevent something, makes the job worthwhile. And it's straightforward, isn't it? But when you've got illustrious leaders that we've got above us, I think that means you've got to raise your game a little bit. and to use social media, I think sometimes people think, well, are you just waiting for it to ping, or it's like, no, I just work on my laptop and crack on, and then all of a sudden, you'll think, oh, I've got 5 minutes, so just check, see what's happening, and you go on, and you think, well, actually, I'll reply to that, I'll repost that, or like last week, we had the internet outage with, I'm going to say Cloudflare, um, and it's because I was trying to get onto a website, couldn't get onto it. And you think, well, actually, because I can't get onto that and do what I wanted to do, I'll just put a post out there to sort of say, and it helps back on about business continuity plans. But when something goes wrong, what have you got for plan B? And my plan B was, well, I'll get something out there.
I think you made a really important point about that. I think is that in today's big bad world, is that actually communication is ultra important nowadays because
Yeah,
this, with no respect to um, the astute leaders in the free world, where he talks about fake news all the time, it's so imperative we get the right news and the right message across to as many people as possible, and
yeah,
probably to cut the BS behind it,
yeah.
because they simply do not have enough time in their day to sift through information.
No, no. Um, and that's why I enjoy. I think our role is so varied. Um, and some people, they want a phone call, some people want an on-site visit, other people just like an email, they like a newsletter, they like being sent something that they can go straight to and respond. um I think it just makes it more fluid and easier for people to interact and communicate with.
For those viewers who can see, you're saying we're just playing about with some views. So if there's anything you see which views you prefer us to be in,
Yeah,
viewers, tell us, and we will try our best to put it in. Damon, are you able to see the views from your end? Are you able to dictate the views from your end,
um
as in
yeah,
on your computer?
yeah,
Yeah, you can do. So if you want to change, you can play about with the viewfinder as well if you want to. Um, so my last sub question on this for you, Damon, then
yeah,
I'll leave it to you to come to me. Is
yeah,
that um, so? You've been in social care, seems like a lifetime.
yeah.
Um, where are we today in your eyes?
um yeah, I never like to get too political, but I think we're a long way behind the NHS and healthcare. It always feels like we're sort of the poorer cousins. And yet, and again, it depends on which side of the fence you're on. Obviously, people within healthcare are going to show you what they do, and quite rightly so. They do an amazing job. But I think with social care, the 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 stuff that we can bring to the table, and how we can support the NHS and healthcare, I think isn't, you feel a bit down sometimes, but it isn't. I don't feel always as recognised. During the pandemic, I think that social care, alongside healthcare, got a huge amount of recognition. But I think sometimes, when people think of what we do, it gets muddied with, well, that's all NHS, and still speak to people, and they're like, well, that's what I pay my national insurance for. And it's like, no, your national insurance doesn't go towards social care, that goes towards healthcare. So I think where we are at the moment, I think we've come a long way. And I think there's a lot of stuff on the horizon that's happening, but I think we're still in the shadows sometimes. And I think if we could get some of the funding and again, it's just what's publicised, and you see all these big numbers being abandoned about. But if we could get some funding for, I mean, we can just see how the digitizing social care program went over the last 3 years. Um, I think, quite a huge sum of money, but relatively small in the grand scheme of things, supported us to exceed that 80% uptake, to nearly 90%, and get providers on that digital journey, which in turn helps healthcare because they can access those files, they can see data, hopefully sooner, quicker. Than they have been able to before, and if that makes it better for the people that we're all here for, which is the people using health and social care, that can only be a good thing. Did you end up in? But I think we're making. I know your background as well. So how did you end up in social care personally? Um,
Mine's a bit probably slightly longer. So my journey is I started nursing back in the very early 80s in the NHS, and progressed quite rapidly through when qualified to become a charge nurse, and also a clinical educator. Within at that time was a link to a university, and I was very much into education and very much into workforce and developing people. I thought it's one of the prime components of a good manager. And then in 2023, I got a phone call one. I remember between Christmas and New Year, as a previous colleague who worked in workforce in the NHS called me up saying that she had moved to a private social care provider and was setting up a new team specifically to make a difference. And they wanted to recruit me, but not as a nurse, but as a workforce developer. And
yeah,
so I went and worked for one of the larger social care providers, and stayed there for about 13, 14 years in specifically in various roles, specifically based in Lincolnshire, then based nationally. And that was around workforce, developing skills, integration of e-learning and building of e-learning systems and things like that. And I progressed in a way that both through education and other commitments at the time I was doing. So I was outside of work. I'd done my football coaching badges, etc. That so I brought all those into my workplace around coaching. And there was an opportunity 10 years ago when LinCA started developing a workforce arm. I just asked if there was an opportunity at LinCA, and Melanie Weatherly, who was the co-chair of, so was the deputy chair of LinCA at the time, said, we might have, because there's someone going on maternity leave, and would you be willing to come in just for a 6-month period? Well, 6 months has turned into 10 years. The role itself has completely changed from when I first came in. We had a partnership with the local county council as a grant to deliver some of the external workforce requirements. That's now progressed to a proper market support contract, but we do so much more, of which you, Damon, as you know, digital is part of. But my pathway into this is that it's just utilising my knowledge of health and social care now, to the best of our ability to influence, and I go back to what I said before, to be the postman, is to match the two together and have conversations.
yeah. What about before your nursing role?
Yeah. Before nursing, my love has always been sports, specifically football. So I was with a professional football club, which I won't name for legal reasons, of which I got a serious injury when I was younger and couldn't progress any further, really. I was playing semi-professional football, but I thought nursing was a fantastic occupation to go in. It's an occupation of a lifetime. And I thought, why not? I was influenced basically by my sister. She is a nurse as well. So there was some sibling influence going on. But actually, it was much harder than I expected when I started. But that journey sort of did model me to become the person I am today. I have to say, I do apologise for anyone who was in my team when I first qualified as a staff nurse. I am not the same person. I'm meaning, therefore, that my ideologies and of how to care for people has slightly altered, and my understanding is based on life experience has changed substantially. And I see myself now as, rather than career focus, more on actually supporting career. It's the word support has been sort of just switched from front to back in a way.
You mentioned your sister there as an influence. Is any other influences along that journey that sort of stand
Yeah,
out?
yeah. So my background within the sense of nursing was very much around traditional matriotic type ward sisters, uh,
Yeah,
who literally used to come around with a protractor and make sure you've got 45-degree hospital corners. And that, in a way, was very much like my sporting background, where you've got someone who actually is in charge, who actually you have to follow specific rules. And I found that was really good. And there was a couple of really good ward sisters at that time. And they were old school. And I would class those people who worked in the NHS will understand what old school nursing sisters was all about. They were very much very vocal. But very much had a reputation and the fear reputation. But actually, when you got to know them, they were wonderful individuals, and they put you first in, even if you weren't performing to the standards which is expected. They were so helpful in making sure you got to the where you wanted to go in your career path. And I remember when I first had my first junior charge nurse's role in Sheffield. My sister at the time was a lady called Sister Rumbelow, and she was just a wonderful woman. And bless her, she's no longer with us now, but she was just a wonderful woman. She got a cracking sense of humour, but she knew the difference between right and wrong and quality care. And she used to say to me, Mark, it's all about the quality. If we can't provide the quality and back it up,
Yep.
we are going to lose people across the way because they won't trust us. And the minute they don't trust us, they don't listen, they don't want us any around. And I've always kept that in my background. And then when I got into workforce, I had a really good manager. Really has been my sort of big inspiration, a gentleman called Paul, who, it's interesting, I work for him now, he works for me in the sense of supporting, but Paul is just a level-headed gentleman, a wonderful gentleman, but more than all is that he's just someone who actually is always in your court all the time. He wants to help you. You know Paul really well as well, but he's someone who doesn't flap even when he's flapping, if you see what I mean. When he's stressed, he doesn't come across as stressed because he's actually understands actually it's not the right way of actually reacting or acting to a scenario. So Paul definitely was a major influence, and probably today, I probably my biggest influence is the chair of executive chair of LinCA at the moment, which is Melanie Weatherly MBE. Melanie's a wonderful woman. She comes across as a hard note, but I don't see that. I think she's fair and honest, and I think it's really, really surprising to some people. But she's also a wonderful human being in the sense that she listens, she cares, and she cares about people, which is more important. And I think most important, she puts that at the forefront of all her decisions and all her conversations.
Yeah, I think she's done amazing things for social care, and again, I think I'm very, very lucky to have been, and hopefully continue to be able to have some of the time to use that expertise and run things by her, and and her honesty.
Yeah, and I think there's people like that all over adult social care, and it's a bit like fairy dust. They've got that little bit of fairy dust, and they sprinkle it on. And if you're in the same room as them, you get it. You get the excitement. They do something. It motivates you to think. Actually, I want to be like that, or I want to be able to talk like that. And I can remember when it came 10 years ago, I was thinking, well, I thought I knew social care. And when I spoke to Melanie, I went away and I remember saying to my wife, I know nothing about social care. This is a woman who knows everything. And she comes across as actually so confident. And when I spoke to her, she once said to me, I know most of the things, but the rest of the things I have to read up. So she spends all her time. And I always joke to her that I think she spends more time with other people than her own family. And she laughs and jokes about it because family's very important to the lady.
Yeah, 100%. We've got one last little bit for you. So, what about your current roles?
At the present moment, I think my job is as junior influencer, and I say that because I think the structure we have at Lincolnshire Care Association, where we have got the mothership, which is the Care Association. We're very fortunate. We've got a second brand, which is Caring Links,
Yeah,
and of which Caring Links has got like 4 pillars. We've got our care home trusted assessors, which support hospital discharge into social care, which is a wonderful concept, which has been developed by Lincolnshire County Council and the Care Association. And then we have careers, and part of that is the work the careers team does with international recruitment across the whole of the East Midlands, in fact, and especially on pastoral support for those displaced workers and finding those displaced workers somewhere in the East Midlands to work, as well
yeah,
as those people working in Lincolnshire getting the best opportunities for them who want to look at social care as a career. Then we have the digital team, which, as you know, Damon, you sit very, very proudly as one of the leaders in that team, alongside Frank. And that's looking at can we digitalize social care into a way that we are in the 21st century with new technologies, but more importantly, fast and more importantly, safe ways of doing things differently. And lastly, then there's the workforce development arm, which is my really bread and butter, is identifying out what skills our workforce needs and trying to develop a program of skills which will have impact, better decision making, but more importantly, better outcomes for health and care outcomes for the future. So I see myself as someone who's actually trying to influence today,
yeah,
but with definitely an eye on our tomorrow and what tomorrow potentially looks like. So I am fortunate in a way. I pick up a lot of the meetings Melanie can't go on. So when she's doing her national work, I tend to do her local work, and that in itself allows me to have meaningful conversations with system leaders across our ICB, across our acute trust and our community trust and our mental health and learning disabilities and our hospices, as well as our EMAS system partners. So all that just throws everything into this mire of how do we keep things on the level. More important to me, I think lastly on that is just making sure that there's a voice for social care
yeah,
in those discussions.
yeah,
Okay, so my question to you now, Damon, and this is
yeah.
our second question is, the things I need to know
Hmm.
to help me to do my job better. So, what are they?
I think for me, it's always learning. One of the hot topics at the moment is AI, and how that has just exploded over the last 6 months, from Siri that was okay, I suppose, and could do certain things, to now tools that I couldn't have imagined. But it's the fact that it's free reign, and are people using them in a correct manner, ethically? We keep hearing the horror stories where people are putting in sensitive data into ChatGPT or to Copilot, and it's like, well, we don't know exactly where that's going or who's got access to it. It should be, like if it was your desk in the office, a clear desk policy, you wouldn't be leaving, my file just for anybody to go and look at. It would be kept secure, um, and it's trying to keep on top of that, I think. And it's fast pacing, and the technology is you see something, and before you know it, it's been superseded, and there's something better. Um, but it's also, I think, the fear. When we all had paper records, apart from losing it, or I don't know, you always had access to it. But now with everything being digital, as we found out yesterday, our internet provider went offline for it was all day, and that meant that my daughter, bless her, she couldn't get her head around it because she couldn't play any games because they're all online. She couldn't watch anything because it's all online. And it was like, well, what are we going to do? And you realise that all the discs I've got are either too young or too old. So we went out to the seaside for the day and had a nice long walk. But it's trying to keep up with everything as it happens, but also plan for something that we don't know is going to happen yet. I mean, some stuff you can plan for, but yeah.
Should we be scared of AI? Because there's
Um,
this element in it. You have these politicians saying that actually AI, or we need to be put a limit on it, and it's going to take over the world. I just don't know. I just don't
I
know.
I think we need to be wary of it. I mean, I like AI. The way my brain works, I've often had something in my head that I've never been able to get down and actually visualize. But with AI now, I'm getting a lot better at that. Um, I think my biggest fear is if they take it away. Not or if it just stops, because it's allowing people to do a lot of tasks that skilled people do. So there is that fear of people potentially losing jobs. But if people change their roles and stop doing things, and an AI for whatever reason isn't there,
It's interesting. Another interesting point is that um, recently I was at an event,
yep,
and there was someone presenting a strategy, and this strategy is going to influence both health and social care for quite a substantial number of years. But the strategy
yep.
was built using AI. Should we be
Yep.
worried?
Um, yes and no. I mean, I think of the one of the councils that was using AI to assess whether or not people should or shouldn't have certain types of support. And obviously, there's divides, and most people are, well, no, you shouldn't have AI doing that. But I just look at humans. I count myself in that, barely, but I do. Um, I make a lot of mistakes a lot of the time, whereas computers, AI, tend to not make mistakes, but it's about the data that's going in there, isn't it? If the data has gone in properly and it's not been swayed to one way or another, then but I think with AI, there are the recognized things where it is predominantly filled with sort of male orientation, and so it will sway things. So if you are of a minority group, then it's not the best thing. But I think as we get better, it will get better. And well, it's like, will we take the calculator away because it can add up better than we can?
So is social care ready for AI? Or
No.
are we just so far behind the eight ball that we've got a generation which is literally stick their head in the sand, it might go away scenario? Is that what? Cause that's what it looks like. If I'm looking through a window, um, that's what I see. I see the younger generation going, this is cool, this, and we've got this older generation going, or a generation, rather than be sexist on this and ages is actually someone saying, actually, it's not for me. And unfortunately, I sometimes see that's the majority population group, which is going to influence future growth
Yeah.
in a sector.
I always relate things to bits that I've seen, and it makes sense in my head. And it was on LinkedIn, I think, and this gentleman had sort of put down he was looking, wanted to get away from tech. Spending all of his time on his phone and on his watch, and he wanted to be more focused in the real world. So he wanted to ditch his iPhone watch and get something old school. And people put in loads and loads of suggestions, and he went for a classic Casio calculator watch. Um, and that was getting lots of praise, and it was cool. And I remember it from my school days. The one that people wanted, but I had to add into the post. I don't really want to spoil things or point out the obvious, but that digital watch is still a piece of tech. And back in the day, we would have spent half our maths lesson messing around with it because we could. It's just a different distraction. And I sort of said, if you want to stop your screen time, and I posted a rotary telephone. So younger listeners will have to potentially Google that. But that was when a phone was a phone that you could literally phone somebody on, and that's it. But this journey we're on, to me, it's like being a child again and seeing. People talk about coding and go, "Well, I couldn't code a computer." I think, well, people of my age, if they had a ZX Spectrum or a BBC Micro or a Commodore 64, you're telling me you didn't get the magazine every month and spend 6 hours typing in to create a very basic blocky game? And like, yeah, like, well, that's coding. That's what coding is. It's putting stuff in to create something. But we forget, and then we look at the modern day and we're like, well, I can't do that. You have done that.
I'm laughing, David, because I looked at two things you've said. One is about watches.
Yep.
And you know me, I'm inquisitive. So, favorite watch? What's your favorite watch?
Well, my favorite watch. Well, from my estate agency days, I did really well. There was a new Bond film out, and I decided that I would get a
Guys, you're gonna find that Damon's not just a nice guy; he's a complete geek.
Well, I got an Amiga Seamaster, which was a very nice watch. The downside is it cost the month's wage to service it every other year, I think. So it's been sat in a drawer. I must admit, I do like a classic watch.
Well, I'm laughing at you because I remember Mum and Dad bought me for Christmas a Casio, and on it was a calculator.
Yeah,
You remember? And it was one of those micro calculators, and I thought it was brilliant until I had to take it off for my maths exam.
yeah.
Because you could have a calculator, but not on a calculator on the wrist.
But good old school can't be beaten sometimes, Mark.
Timex. They are Timex.
Don't mind the Timex.
Oh, they're still around.
Yeah, you can still get Timex.
And then I'm going to. Those are probably from my generation. Remember the new trendy watch which came probably in the 80s, the Swatch, which is now the iWatch is the equivalent to it, isn't it? In a way.
Yeah. But I think that captures what we've been talking about. It's that growth and how things change. And I remember from my training days, because I again was very, very lucky, and we had supporting reablement. So there's a lot of use of technology there to keep people independent and doing everything that they would want to do. And it's amazing how people don't always realise what technology actually is. And I know there's this big fear that people don't want to, but we've had tech forever. And I remember being on a call more recently about digital social care records, and there is some people that don't like the idea of going forward, and somebody just was not being the most polite about it in the chat, and said, well, what do people do when they go home? Read Dickens by candlelight. And again, having to be that person.
Not wrong with that.
Oh, but to create candles, you need technology, because you can't just make a candle. I mean, you can, but you need some sort of tech normally to be able to create it. And to print a book, well, we're not still copying, word for word transcriptions. We use printing presses. It's technology.
I've still got my Paxton press upstairs.
That's what we're going to get this out on. It's like I said with the power cut. Well, not power cut, but the Wi-Fi going out. You suddenly realise that you are dependent on Wi-Fi to an extent that, yeah. I mean, I love going out with my daughter, and it was a great day out while the other half was at work. But you realise how dependent you are on technology.
That's actually slightly different. Actually, that question about things I need to do for me to do my jobs better.
Yeah.
I always think, if I look at that logically, I think it's people.
Yeah.
So I always remember a old HR director of mine. You said to me once, Mark, if I was able to do the algorithm for the scenario that I want people to do their job to their best ability at a time which is going to be best for everyone scenario. He says, if I could bottle that and find the thesis behind it and the whole theory behind it and be able to do it, that it's done every time, 100%, he says, I'll become overnight a millionaire.
Yeah.
But because humans are so different, that we've got so many fault processes which stops us having total perfection, throw that into the casserole mix of we're all independent, different people from different backgrounds, all different processes. We get this mismatch of that. In my eyes, we can live with 70% of perfection, and that is probably the maximum we're ever going to get.
Yeah.
And if we can keep it 70%, we can keep the ship going in the right direction for as long as we feed it with information. And for me, I always think it's the element of I need to make sure those people who I work with have got the right tools,
Yeah.
have got the right information, that they are feeding back into the motherboard kind of situation, that information, and therefore we can either change direction if we see something isn't working or is just lacking something, that we can head it off before he gets too invested into it, into the length of that process. Or actually what we can do, I think which we do well within social care, is actually we're good at that. We're good at changing direction. I see sometimes my health colleagues, and I do apologise for any of you on the call. I've got people who are in the NHS or you work in the NHS, but I sometimes see in my NHS colleagues that they will have a meeting for a meeting's sake, and it becomes a meeting. So instead of saying, right, then we'll have 2 meetings and then we'll get on with it, they'll have 8 meetings and they're still not going on with it when they start the 9th one, by which time the person who's actually leading has left and a new person's coming, and guess what? We have another meeting to introduce the concept, and that person goes away to set up a new meeting for a new idea that they have, and of which nothing gets sorted. I think in social care it's slightly different, because I think what you've got is you've got the necessity that time is the essence, and therefore I feel that we just work better. But what we haven't got is either a fully health service type infrastructure behind us, and also we haven't got the financial burden of taxpayers' money. And so sometimes we do some things which cost very little but has maximum impact. And those bits really, really excite me. Those are the things which really influence me. Those are the things that says, wow, that makes a difference. So I'm looking in my inbox at the moment. There's things like delegated health tasks. We've got to get that right. But do we need to get that right first and foremost for residential settings? Or actually, I'm moving to, I think we need to get it right for home care settings. Because we get it ready for home care settings, I'm thinking we keep people longer in their own homes. It takes some of the burden off the NHS. It supports the 10-year plan of community focused care around primary networks. But more importantly is that we actually upskill our workforce to be able to be like a triager, identifying a problem earlier, having the skills to do that. That's not to say we'll not need residential. We'll always need residential care. And actually, I know the demographics have shown that we'll need more as the population gets older and there's more population. I think I said somewhere, and I do apologise if they got this wrong as a stat, it's something like there will have to be a 7% increase of residential over the next sort of 30 years, even though the the 10-year plan is home first and keep people in the home. There'll be a drive into residential. What that looks like and how that looks like, again, it's exciting. And I just think things I need to do my jobs better element is that actually, I think the importance of having the right team around you is extremely positive, and that is really healthy. The two is actually I think is your own ability to show frustration. So it's having right people at home properly, having that pressure cooker balance is that you can let off steam. But also, I think it's also having. I think the older you get, and working as long as I have in health and social care, the element of wise person, I can see it happening more and more. I am not the man I was when I was 25, thank God. Even though I was managing a ward on in the NHS, but today I am a different type of manager, and I think that comes back to the fact is that the University of Life guides you for lifelong learning, and I think there's a massive part to play in lifelong learning and experience. And I do enjoy, and hopefully we'll get more people coming onto our podcast, Damon, who brings us that little bit of thinking. That's why we do this podcast. Simple as that.
Sharing ideas.
Yeah. So anyway, Damon, just before I'm going to hand over to Damon to just to talk about top tips. If there's anything which has come from today's content which you're interested in, let us know. Please. Just contact us directly. We are planning to put this on our own personal LinkedIn's account.
Yep.
We're probably going to test it with our own internal teams just to say what they think and give them feedback from us. Second thing as well, any comments we've made, these are our personal comments, not the views of LinCA or any of our supportive organisations which we participate in conversations. These are our personal views, and that's why it's important we say that.
Yeah.
So Damon, your top tips, have you got one on top of your head? I've got beauty, but it's one of my Mark Turtonisms.
Okay, well, I've got one. Yep.
Go on.
I think my top tip is business continuity planning. It's such a straightforward thing. I think it's something that some people say they've done it, but has it been tested? But I'm just taken back to a webinar that I supported our colleagues over in Leicestershire do, MCare, and a lady in the chat put, this is quite scary. How do you cover everything in a business continuity plan? Well, honest and frankly, you don't. But if you can do everything you can do, i.e. not have a password, because it can all start from a cyber attack. So not having a password that is password 1234, having a better password that you haven't shared and it is personal, that might stop something that and training staff. But just testing that business continuity plan, I think is a start. But that's my top tip.
Okay, thank you.
I'm interested to hear yours, Mark.
Okay, so mine is around. Mine's more to do with leadership.
Yep.
So I've put my thing is assertiveness is easy.
Yep.
Undertaking it is damn hard. And I believe that sometimes you've got to be assertive to people, but actually assertiveness, I think, is quite positive. But actually doing it, you've got to be good at it. I think I've seen it the other way around when someone has been assertive and you think, well, they've been a bully. And that's not what it's about. And it comes across wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think sometimes you've got to take... I'm a big fan of constructive criticism. So if I've done something that's been misjudged or could be done better, I've had bosses in the past that have gone, well, that's just not right. And it's like, okay, so what is? Well, I don't know, but that's not right. It's like, well, I only know what I'm doing, and I need, like we've talked about today, leadership. Sometimes you need that, say, that little arm around your shoulder. Yeah, that's a good tip, though.
Right then. Do you want to sum up, Damon? I'm looking at we're trying to do this in 60 minutes. I can't believe we've done 58 minutes of it
Yeah.
without a timer. It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah, we're doing well. We're doing well. And people that know us know that we can both talk a lot for a long time. Um, is there anything else you wanted to
No, I
sort of
don't think.
cover?
I just think is you sort of just in summary up your last thoughts of the two questions of what we're trying to do and what we're
Yep.
trying to do for the future,
Yep. Yep.
and what people. I don't know how people can help us
Yeah.
develop this as a podcast, as a room of just general chit chats
Yeah.
about ideas, and maybe want to get if they want to get in touch with us,
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, I think to echo what you said earlier, it is our own views. You sort of look back and you think, oh crikey, did I really say that? But I really hope that if I have, like you sort of said anything, it's not to criticise. I mentioned the NHS and our colleagues there. It's not to criticise them; they do an amazing job. But I think sometimes that we are forgotten about, or I feel that we're forgotten about in social care. But it's not. They are doing an amazing job, so it's not criticism of them. But I think the ask of anybody that does take the time out to listen to this, and we're grateful for that, is what do they think? What could we do better? What would they like to see us cover? Any areas that they'd like to discuss. Anything would be great. And it's sharing that. And I know that we've both been party to meetings and to conversations, and I think they will lead us moving forward. But anything that people come up with, I think would be great. And if they've got specific questions that they wanted to, I think that'd be good.
Okay, that's brilliant. And I think that last one is that if you've got a question you want to me and Damon to discuss, just let us know. Tell us that question. No
Yeah.
questions off the table.
No.
We will have to vet them. I do apologise for that. That's just for our sanity. And I think for, for the sense that we don't want to upset too many people.
No. No.
So lastly, Damon,
Yeah.
this is not so much the fun bit. Is that it's a bit about our personalities. Is that so? Christmas. What's going to be the number one show for you this Christmas? And I suspect
Go
it's
on.
some geeky show.
Oh well, I mean, we've got no Doctor Who this year. That's going back to next year. I think for me, I mean, we've got our geeky in a way, I suppose, but we've got our own little set things we like to watch. Films, TV shows. I don't think there is one this year. I mean, it would have been Doctor Who. I think we will catch up with Stranger Things.
Oh, that
Because that's
starts
sort of
until next. Is it next week? It starts.
yeah. No, it's this Thursday or Friday. It's the first one. I think it's 3 episodes this time. So yeah, quite keen to catch up with those. But I'm old school, so as long as I get to watch the Snowman and Raymond Briggs Santa Claus, I'll be happy. What about
Yeah.
yourself, Mark?
Um, well, as a family, we do Christmas really well.
Yeah.
So I've got my family coming over to us in Lincolnshire, um, and then we always do the same thing on Boxing Day. So as a family, we decamp to Mablethorpe,
Yep.
and we literally have a fish and chips at the seaside.
Yep.
We play the slots come rain or hell water, which is always fun. And then we put all the tokens together and we try to get the tackiest thing you possibly can do. Last year, I'm sure it was for about the third year running, rubber ducks. But we have a great laugh. We all come out with the old metallic brown fingers, black fingers from all the, I'm thinking, IPC, infection prevention control elements.
Yep.
Really, Mark?
Yep.
But we've been doing this now for about 7 or 8. I think it's about 8 years we've been doing this as an immediate family, and it's sort of grown into an institution. So that's what I'm doing. I don't really watch much TV, actually, to tell the truth, at Christmas. I tend to look forward to a bit of sport. So I think on Boxing Day I might get up early to watch the cricket. but after last week's debacle, that may not happen. But yeah, I do like it. I think Gavin and Stacey was a good one a few years ago
Yeah.
because there was a lot of hype behind that. I understand about the Strange Things. I quite like that program in the sense that it's something good to watch and it gets the old grey matter going to think, well, it's interesting. But no, that's probably nothing for me. Knowing me, I'll probably just fall asleep because I don't drink much anyway, so I'll just fall asleep in the chair, and I'll get roped into playing some stupid game.
Oh, I love board games.
Anyway,
Well, my youngest is
Damon.
still young, so oh, brilliant.
So last but not least, big thank you for giving your time today.
Thank you too,
And from me, Mark Turton, and from
Damon. Having.
we'll see you next time. I think we will. I don't know, Damon. When do you think we should do this? Every month to start off with, and see what happens.
I think so. I
Okay,
think so. Brilliant.
jolly good. Right, we'll see you in a month, folks.